Your kids need your presence more than they need the gifts and presents you shower on them. Modern fatherhood has been twisted into showing up for birthdays, attending games, or posting the occasional dad pic, but emotional absence is the silent epidemic no one wants to talk about. If you're only half showing up, your kids will remember that. They don't need a roommate. They need a role model. And when you miss this, you're not just losing moments, you're losing legacy. I'm Andrew Russell, founder of Dadderup, and I'm on a mission to promote and celebrate what it means to be a dad. Present but absent. It's a real specific thing within fatherhood that really resonates with me. I could tell you personally, I go to all the soccer games. I'm sure there's plenty of, dads and parents that are watching this that do the same thing. And, you're there and it's the weekend. And not every second that your child's playing a sport are they kind of in it, right? They're not necessarily scoring the goal or, doing the thing. So turns out, luckily for me, my youngest, they put her in goal for soccer, right? And it's kind of boring. Her team actually is a super standout team. They're actually exceptional at soccer. So majority of the time, she's like, stand there, kind of picking daisies is the saying, right? So what ends up happening, I do what every entrepreneur does. Typically, I go on my phone, and I'm not telling you it's all work related. There's plenty of stuff that's really non-work related or not even appropriate at the time for me to be on my phone and not paying attention. But sure as anything, majority of the time, the other team's not down on the other side of the field and scoring on her. So, with that said, I was like, oh, I'm there. I'm present, right? I think I'm present, but I'm really absent. So, it always takes my kids a handful of days or weeks. And then she called it out. My youngest said like, hey, but when I was in goal and you're on your phone the whole time. And I was like, oh, because even for me, this is something that I definitely struggle with, or I have struggled with. It's something that I'm working on every single day, something that's important to me. So anything important is something that you have to work on every day, right? Whether it's diet or the gym or business or spirituality, relationship, whatever it is. So the same thing being a parent to my two daughters, it's something that I have to work on every single day, but specifically it was just called that out. I was like, you know what? I need to do a better job being present, but not being absent, because guess what? My kids used to be, 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 3 and 5. Now it's 7 and 9, soon to be 8 and 10. They're smarter. They're more with it. They're more mature, and they see what it's like when daddy's around and he's not fully present. He is absent. So just being there physically, I've realized is not good enough. And it's not like I had a aha moment, but I am now making a big concerted effort to do a better job, be present and not be actually absent. And of course, most people always bring up, and hey, Andrew, I work long hours. It's so hard to be present, to not be absent, especially when, I had a stressful day. I'm an attorney, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, a fire chief, a teacher, and I'm with kids all day. I just want to go home, veg out, scroll social media and, do my thing, have a minute. Like, I get that. Of course, I own a mortgage company. I get that. Stressful business, naturally. We all need our time as dads, dad or downtime, if you want to call it that. But unfortunately, you don't get redos. So with your kids, although it's hard, it's one of those things. Relationships are hard, right? Being a parent is hard. Being an entrepreneur, business owner is hard. You don't know when your next check's coming in. So I just welcome it. And it's just one of those things. Many people work long hours. Whoever feels that way, you're not the only one, and you won't be the only one for the rest of time that feels that way. But I can tell you, it is hard, working long hours, coming home, having to put on the dad hat. But I can tell you, if you ever trust in anything I said, it's the most rewarding hat you could wear. It's the biggest gift that you'll ever get. And your kids, they don't enjoy that you're away for long periods of time. So the small little time that you get with them, that you kind of borrow them until they're off the ledge and out in the world, you have to take advantage of it. But of course, it's always the, hey, Andrew, I provide. It's what I do. I'm giving them a great life. I'm out there doing my thing at work. So that should be good enough, right? So that's a lot of old world thinking that the dad's out there and he's hunting and he comes home and that's it, right? The day kind of ends. So, being an emotional dad, being more present, being hyper communicative, kind of getting in the weeds with your kids, especially at a young age, not just offloading it to their mother. That's the new rage right now with being a present, intentional father. So yeah, listen, do I respect, without a doubt, all the dads that are out there providing, giving their kids great lives, killing themselves at work, 2, 3 jobs. Maybe they put themselves in harm's way. They're a police officer or a fireman. Of course, all the respect in the world. But just understand, the job doesn't end then. You didn't have a kid, you provide, and that's it. It's like a little kind of caveman mentality-ish. I've struggled with that as well. Business owner, entrepreneur, I made a good living. So is that it? Is that where it ends for me? I get my most enjoyment being with my kids, wearing that emotional kind of communicative hat, kind of diving in and leaning into everything that they're doing, and kind of putting aside the fact that I'm the hunter-gatherer, if you want to call it that, actually getting in there with them and doing the thing. And they love it just as much as I do now. Yeah, and of course, all the dads that say, hey, Andrew, I'm just not good with my emotions. How am I going to connect emotionally with my kids, let alone if they're girls? So I hear that. I mean, if you look at me, big dude, I'm a football guy, one of the bros, but I've had to work on this as a craft. And I'm not telling you I'm perfect. I have to work on it every single day. And I certainly fail all the time. But I can tell you, if you want to, if something is important enough to you, you will work on it. You'll work on it every single day until it's kind of more like progress, not perfection. The same thing goes for emotions. And that's why we're going to talk about different strategies about how you can improve being there emotionally for your kids. These are all strategies. This isn't something for anyone watching that'll be impossible for you to do or to figure out. But it's something that you're going to have to work on. So as long as step one, you admit to yourself, you look in the mirror in the morning when no one's around and say, hey, I care. I want to be a better dad. This is something that's very important to me. I want to work on my emotionalness around them, right? I want to work on being present. I want them to not feel like I just don't care. If this stuff matters to you, the rest you could work on it, right? But the step one is it has to matter, because whenever you're motivated to do something and you have the discipline to stay at it every single day, you'll be able to achieve the exact results you want. Becoming a father has been the biggest gift that I ever received, especially the second time around. Having two girls that are amazing, can't say enough about them. It's the biggest gift. But what I realized when I zoomed out this year, 30,000 feet, when I looked at modern fatherhood, there's just a lot going on there that doesn't necessarily like lean in or dig into being a present, intentional parent. For instance, social media. My daughter's birthday was in May. And what do? I scrounged to get the pictures and post and stress myself out. Why? Did that move the needle in my relationship with her, or being a great dad, or helping her in her growth trajectory from an emotional, or parenting perspective? Absolutely not. The same thing with Father's Day. I did the same exact thing, kind of, go crazy for the pictures. Why? So I could post, get the likes. Like, is that really the thing? I realize that in culture right now around, modern parenting, especially fatherhood, being present, obviously it's a thing. You can tell, is dad there or he's not there? But actually being absent while you're being present, it seems to be like somewhat of a pandemic, right? It seems like there's so much absentee landlord almost parents that I realized that this is something that I had to work on, because I was basically failing at this. It was hardcore called out by my kids that I was doing this. So I realized over the last several years that I've worked on 5 specific things that help me be more present, less absentee dadding, if you want to call it that. So here are the 5 things. The first thing I started doing is actually making eye contact. Now, if you take a step back, how crazy is that? Here we are, making eye contact, talking, and I actually do this outstandingly in relationships and business relationships and whatever it is. But with my kids, it's like one of those things. Is it weird for you to sit and actually stare your kid in the eyes? It's actually difficult because we're so used to being on our phone that you're kind of like always, you say multitasking, but it's like you're half paying attention. So first thing I started doing is with my kids, I slowed down and make sure that I'm actually looking them right in the eyes, the big, beautiful blue eyes that I luckily happen to give them. And we have these deep connections and deep conversations. And I actually, in return, make them do the same thing. Because just like I have bad habits, so do your kids. Guess where they learn them from? Dads, parents. They learn them from you, right? Some of these bad habits. So I make sure they are never paying attention the first go either. So I say, hey, Daniela, Gabby. And then look at me in the eyes, look Papa Bear in the eyes. But I make them look me in the eyes just like I do to them. And it builds that connection. You could see they're in the conversation. They're actually in it instead of multitasking or basically half paying attention. What's the point of doing anything if you're not going to be all in on it, right? So it's the same thing with conversations. I've found that looking them in the eyes specifically has moved the needle to our relationships. Before I get into the second thing, guys, make sure you go in the description and click the link. So I created this amazing community called Dadder-Up, where we're redefining what it means to be an amazing dad in this world, a present, intentional, awesome dad, right? And within that community, we have something called the DDS, or Daily Dadder Success. So every single day, you get a prompt on something to do for the day. So we actually, right now, we created a free 30-day DDS, or Daily Dadder Success, a 30-day prompt for you guys about being present but not absent. So make sure you can go in the description and click the link. Download our free 30-day DDS. I'm telling you, it's amazing. We're only going to talk about 5 things here, but it's going to give you a free month. So if you do small wins every single day for 30 days with your kids, or give it your best, it's only going to lead to a better relationship. So make sure you go in the description and click the link, get our free guide. The second thing that I do is I've started to ask open-ended questions. You guys, if you're watching, I'm sure you have kids, right? Or you're going to have kids, or it's got to be some kid-related thing to be watching my videos. But specifically, when you do kind of come home from work and you talk to them, right? Or if they're younger or they're older, we call them legacies, over the age of 10. And you say like, hey, how was your day? They're like, good. You ever just like stop there? Because guess what? If you do, you're absent. You're not present. And I'm the first one to tell you, I've been absent. I still make mistakes and I'm absent when I'm supposed to be present, meaning, or specifically asking your kids about their day, being there for them, because that's the whole blessing and magic of parenting, right? You're really just borrowing these kids until they're out there on their own, and you get the blessing of being there for their ups and downs and trials and tribulations. Like, it's an amazing journey. But if you're absent when you're asking the question specifically, hey, how was your day? Good. All right. And you're over it. Are you really even asking? Why even ask? So I've learned to ask open-ended questions specifically. Oh, it was good. Tell me about that. What made your day good? Why was it good? Did you struggle with anything today? How was your class? Tell me about some of your friends. Have you ever been picked on? Are you being bullied? I don't ask them this every single day, but the more you talk to them, the more the stuff will come up because they realize that you care. Because guess what? If you ask someone a question and they give you a one-word answer and it just ends at that, do they think you even care? Maybe it's a cry for attention. It could be a lot of different things, a lot going on with kids in their little brains, right? As their brains are maturing. But nonetheless, ask open-ended questions, dig into it. Don't just let them stop at a one-word answer. And again, then I revert back to number one, which is like, make them look in your eyes. So not only do I say, hey, no, we're not stopping at good today. Tell me about your day. How was it with flute practice? How was it being in band? Do you feel comfortable? Is there something I can help you there? How do you feel you progressed as a flautist? That's right, I said it, flautist. How was soccer? Did you enjoy practice? Like, why do you seem a little off today? Like, really digging into these conversations and asking them open-ended questions instead of just like accepting the one-word answer while making them look me in the eyes. It's been very successful for me building relationships with my kids and kind of moving the needle towards a really close relationship. The third piece that's been really successful for me, the third thing is creating one-on-one time. So I've noticed, if you guys have more than one kid, especially I'm talking about mine and having two, I get a different product. Let's call them products. I had a different, iteration of my kids depending on if I'm with both or one. Unfortunately, we live in a huge FOMO world, fear of missing out. I can tell you, I was the older brother, my little brother, I have a younger brother. Whatever I did, he kind of had to do. I get that. And that starts a whole, dynamic play of the older one never feeling like they got anything first because the younger one, a handful of years back gets it at the same time. Same thing happens with my kids, but I can tell you when I get that alone time with them, and it doesn't have to be more than 15 minutes, guys. It could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. Alone time is super special. You could really, ask the open-ended questions, get that eye contact, and really build that one-on-one relationship because it's hard to really build a relationship with your kids, especially even if you have one child, without that one-on-one time, whether with the other parent as well, or school, or car, or sports, or whatever it is. But just understand communication and quality time. It all comes from like this kind of one-on-one feel, or at least it really helps move the needle. So just make sure that you intentionally, and this is the cool thing, guys, about our DDS, or Daily Data Success, we build into the 30-day rituals that we do alone time with your kids. And it's not easy. So just remember, you're a parent. You had kids. So it is now your fiduciary responsibility to wake up, look in the mirror, and care about this stuff. This is non-negotiable. At least it's non-negotiable to me. So I wake up and every single day I try to put on the best dad hat that I can. Now, again, I'm not sitting here telling you I'm perfect, because I'm certainly not. I make all the mistakes like many dads do. But I care, though. I care enough to take a step back to realize where I've made a mistake, what I could have done better. And guess what? These days that I have with them, these cool days at 7 and 9 years old, they're fleeting. So they're going to be 8 and 10, 10 and 12, 16 and 18. It's crazy to imagine next year I have a 10-year-old, but I can tell you that through the mistakes, it's all a journey. It's all a process. It's all progress, not perfection. But you really can move the needle to an amazing relationship with your kids if you're intentional about having one-on-one time. And again, what does that mean? I've heard, I was on a webinar for a huge mortgage coach, and he was talking about every Friday he has date night with his daughter, and they go and get ice cream. Amazing. One-on-one time. It's the best, right? You could sit there. I'm sure he's getting eye contact. I'm sure he's asking open-ended questions, right? It fits right into this mold. But again, this isn't something that I just learned out of the box when I brought Daniela home in 2016, right? Wow, time flies. I didn't know any of this stuff. Would have been cool if I could lean into, a community like Dad Her Up and learn this stuff. But these are the things that I've learned throughout my journey. So I'm telling you, the one-on-one time, it really moves the needle in your relationship with your kids in the positive way. So depending on how old your kids are or child is, the fourth thing is sharing your struggles and opening up to them, almost like they're like a comparable human to where you are. Now, is that easy? Of course not. I'm in my 40s. My kids haven't even hit double digits. So like, there's only so much you're going to sit and tell them, right? And of course, if you have kids that are, newborns, 3, 4, 5 years old, depending on, some are very mature, sometimes they're not all that mature at certain ages. Obviously, there's only so much you can say. But even if they're young, we found that it's cathartic for you. And I just think there's something about it. Like, they may not understand what you're saying. If they're 1 or 2 or 6 months and you're, walking around the house singing them special songs, trying to have them stop crying or take the bottle, there's something cathartic about it for you, getting to the practice, for them, hearing your voice, still just opening up and just leveling with them, telling them your thoughts, telling them your struggles. So I have found, my older one, super empath. My younger one, super smart. She's logic-based. She's rational. 1 + 1 = 2. And if not, it just doesn't make sense to her. So I've found through my one-on-one time with them, right? You see how this all flows? Through the one-on-one time with them, through asking open-ended questions and looking them in the eyes so that they're in the conversation, I've realized the best ways to communicate about life, about me, struggles. So they feel like they're like in it with me. So I own a mortgage company. I've opened up to them about what it's like to be an owner, what it's like to be an entrepreneur. They think, oh, Daddy, you're the boss. You have it so simple. No, I actually don't. Tell them why. Tell them some of my struggles, my mistakes, how Daddy opened the mortgage company, didn't check in an address that was approved by the banking department, got denied for the address, but ended up burning $10,000 trying to renovate that space before it was approved. And I couldn't even use it, and I never used it, but I burned a $10,000 grant that I won for that space. So right out of the gate, opening up a mortgage company, I burned $10,000, and I couldn't even use the space. And I had to pivot after I just burned my first $10,000 that I made as a company owner. I mean, that was a cool story. They laughed. Of course, my kids are super cool, super fun. Like, Daddy, what were you thinking? You're so silly, Daddy. Like, why would you do that? Like, of course, they're in the know and I'm not. But that made us closer. They realize I'm human. Sometimes I feel like kids, especially I'm a big guy, I'm 6'3", and depending on how many jet tailgates I go to, it could be 250, it could be 320. I'm intimidating. And it's not like I try to. I'm a big teddy bear, huge heart. I'm the guy that leaks or cries, at the sad movies with my kids. But regardless, I want them to see me as, a human version of dad. Like, of course, dads could be superheroes, especially little girls. But I have found that opening up to them, telling them about my day, telling them about my struggles, on this cool, like, weight loss journey, I'm doing my steps and doing my macros, right? And they've seen that, it's almost like a joke, kind of embarrassing and humbling when your older daughter says, wow, Dad, you're really losing weight. Good for you. And I'm like, well, Danielle, how do you see that? Like, oh, give me a hug. She hugs me and she's like, I used to only be able to do this. Now I can hug you and it's a little tighter and goes there. But like, is that embarrassing? Did Dad eat a couple too many Bubba burgers for a handful of years? It's like, I didn't have the baby weight here. Let's be real. But that's been a really cool journey for my kids. So I have found that opening up to them, letting them in on my life, obviously always has to be appropriate. We keep things rated like -G if there's such a thing. No cursing. No, we keep it, very objective here in our house. But opening up, telling about my business journeys, my life journeys, my health journey, it's really helped. That with the one-on-one time, with the looking face-to-face, right? The open-ended questions, it's really helped improve my relationship with both my kids. And the fifth one, do I even have to go into it? It's the phone. So here's a quick exercise, guys. Imagine talking to someone and they're just like this the whole time. And you're talking. And they're like this. Like, oh, huh? Like this. Oh, really? That your day? Yeah? Yeah. Oh, you were bullied? That's crazy. Right. Oh, that's so cool. You made first share of... Hold on. No, you made first share flute. That's great. That's great. I mean, I have to tell you, it's a dramatic example, but it sucks. It truly does. If you've been around, on a date, or your wife or your husband or, whomever, your boss, or you're leaning in, you're opening up, you're being vulnerable with them and they're on their phone. It's like the biggest, I don't even know what the word would be. It's just, that's what it is. I realize the fifth thing is, and this is hardcore called out by my older daughter as of late, that I'm on my phone a lot. And I am, listen, I'm in the game of sales and mortgage. And you got to answer the call, right? Because if you don't, then the next guy will, and you lose the business and all that. But I've realized that there are moments for that, and I've always been the biggest believer of like, what's the way that we as dads, that we show up for our kids? Are we, when we're with your kids, the phone's off, when we're not with them, it's not about them, your phone's on? Or is it like what I was deploying for a while is organized chaos? I think there's a way to kind of do both at the same time, but I know that and it's been called out lately, and my kids were right. I hate to admit it, but my 7 and 9-year-old were right, and 40-ish-year-old dad was wrong. I have to do a better job being present and not absent, specifically when the phone is in my hand. So the soccer field, that hour, if you think about it, how many soccer games will your kid have? How many baseball games? How many times will they get up bottom of the ninth with 2 outs? Yeah, I know you get calls, and if you, depending on what you do for a living, it's important for you to be on your phone, or you just straight up have a social media addiction. That's a thing too. People have it. So how many times will you get that? And if you miss it, how many times will that opportunity present itself that it will come back? You don't know. There's really just not a set amount of times that could exist again. So by having a startling realization that my kids threw in my face, embarrassed me hardcore in front of multitudes of people, saying like, Daddy, I wish you were off your phone. Daddy's on his phone. Daddy, I wish you were off your phone. Daddy, there's only so many times you can be defended against that. I've realized the best play is to just not be on your phone, right? To put it on silent, all the addicting zzz, and it's kind of like triggering, right? But at those special moments, would the world end if your phone was just in your pocket on silent? Probably not. And you don't realize, because in your head, you're like, there, I'm present, I'm at the game, what's the big deal? But when your youngest daughter says, Dad, I was in goal, and the whole time you're on your phone, of course, logically, I could tell you why, because I'm sitting there freezing, and it's boring sometimes when your kid's not in the action and nothing's really going on. And it's you got to keep yourself warm, keep yourself busy, and then here's the phone addiction, right? Rears its ugly head. But I can tell you that your kids are watching. So if you ever took any of my advice of the 5 things, which was looking them in the eyes, asking open-ended questions, having that one-on-one time, making sure you open up a little bit into your life so they feel that they're part of your life, or you're not like this aloof on an island dad. The most important of all this, it all goes to nothing if you're always on your phone. I understand the need to be on phones for work. Believe me, no one understands that more than me. I think I answer emails faster than people answer text messages. I'm not getting an award for that naturally. There's no Oscar or Grammy that goes to Andrew Russell for that, but I can tell you, you have to work on your phone use in front of your kids, because your kids are always watching, and it's like a love bank, right? The more deposits into the love bank with your kids of you being there, paying attention, even when they just look over quick and they see you, the love bank grows, they feel better connection, they feel loved. The more you're on your phone, right? It happens. You're not going to bat 1,000 here. Parenting, being a great dad, I'm not going to sit here and tell you about 1,000, not even close. But the more you're on your phone, the more deposits are coming from that love bank, if you want to call it that. And eventually, as it was the case of me, it gets very barren. And then all of a sudden, your little kids start calling you out and embarrassing you in front of everyone. Why? Because they're right. They're screaming, Daddy, pay attention. We love you. We appreciate you. Pay attention. So again, of all the 5 things, if anything resonates, just do your best. When you're with your kids, don't be absent, specifically being on your phone. All right, guys, just make sure before you stop watching this video, you hop in the description, click the link. Again, we have this amazing Data Up community, and within it, we have something called the DDS, or Daily Data Success, where every single day takes away the guesswork, right? What can I do today to be a great dad? I'm sure you could chat GPT it, or ask one of your boys or your parents or whatever, and you could slay it as a dad every day. But then it'll be day 6. You had a bad day at work, or your back hurts, right? In my case, the disc is slipping, and you miss that day. So what it does is, it's just that safety net that every single day, which you can't get back. As of this point with technology, you cannot get the past back. So it's that safety net almost, that every single day we give you a prompt, take away the guesswork, things that have been proven to work with dads, and increase the relationship that you have with your kids. So make sure that you get our free 30-day DDS. So part of the Data Upside is we have this daily prompting we're giving you right now in the description, clicking the link, our free 30-day guide of specific things to help you being present but not being absent. So make sure you grab this before you stop watching the video. All right, guys, are you ready to step into deeper fatherhood? So our next video is going to dive into being an amazing, present, intentional parent. What does that look like? Make sure you click the video and watch it, and let's dad.